The end. The two most beautiful words in the English language if you're a novelist, especially that first time. You see them there and that feeling of elation, sense of accomplishment is like nothing else. Now for some people that's enough. They check it off their bucket list and they move on. But for others, they see themselves changing their lives. They see themselves becoming a professional novelist. For those people, the end is only the beginning.
Welcome to the Cube with Brian D. Anderson.
Yeah, what'd you think of my intro? It was because of Halloween I made it spooky like that, and not because I'm amateur and don't know what I'm doing, and those were the sound effects I could get my hands on. Anyway, I'll get better, I promise. So, on to today's topic. Is independent publishing right for you? Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Of course it's right for me. I don't feel like going through all the traditional gatekeepers. I don't feel like querying agents, querying editors, and suffering all the rejection and waiting around for months, sometimes years, just to find out that nobody wants my book. That's not for me. Yeah, but indie may not be any easier or any more rewarding. In fact, if you are not well suited to indie, it can be downright horrible. It can be a plague on your life. Now, there are some questions you need to ask yourself when considering your publishing options. And you need to be honest, and you need to examine who you are as a person, who you are as a writer, what are your work habits, what are your capabilities. If you don't do this and you dive off into indie publishing just to avoid the gatekeepers, you're going to find yourself in a world of hurt. You're going to find yourself having wasted the same amount of time had you gone the other road. So, here are 4 questions that I've come up with that you should probably ask yourself first. Are you a fast writer? If you're writing 500 words a day, no, you're not. I personally can get around, I try to go for 2,000, 1,500 is a slow day, 3,000 is a big day. I have friends that write over 5,000 words a day. And these are top tier indies who are just killing it. They do this for a living. They do not have a day job. And if that's your goal, then you need to ask yourself that important question. Can you keep up with the demand of a ravenous indie readership? See, one of the appeals to indie is that we do not have to wait for the enormous wheels of bureaucracy and corporate meetings and all the things involved with producing a traditional book. We can produce our book, put it out to the public in a quarter of the time. Some people even less than that. So if your goal is to make a living through indie, that's an important question. Now, again, with all these questions, I'm going to ask, if you're saying, no, Brian, I don't write that fast, but I'm still going to be an indie. Absolutely cool. I'm not saying you can't be a slow writer and be an indie. And there are several successful indies that are slow writer, just not very many. The majority of the top tier, top earning indie writers write very fast. And I'm not talking very fast and putting out rough drafts. I'm talking about they put out quality material. So that is question 1. Do you write in a genre where indies do well? I know that sounds like a simple and obvious question, but it's a question that often gets overlooked. Now, if you're writing in action, adventure, science fiction, fantasy, romance, all the major genres, then yes, we are doing very well. We're selling millions of books. But outside of that, you might want to take a look, see how indies are faring. Whatever genre fits your book the best, take a look at the Amazon Top 100 and see how many of those are independent authors. See, we're not accepted in all genres equally. A great example of that is literary fiction. We have not broken into literary fiction in any kind of meaningful way. So if you're writing literary fiction, traditional is the obvious path. Now, I'm not saying it can't be done, and I'm not saying you can't be the one that breaks the mold. I am saying that the odds are stacked against you if you choose a genre where indies are not accepted. Now, I'm not telling you should change who you are as a writer or write to market, anything like that. But you need to be informed before you push the publish icon. You need to know where you stand. Can you be two people? Can you be both an artist and a business person? You see, the artist in you will see your book as something very special, something unique, something that you poured your heart and soul into creating, almost like a child. And it should feel that way. You should care that much about your work. But the business side of you can't look at it that way. It has to see that book as a consumer product. You have to be able to separate yourself and run the business side. And the business side is not easy. You need to be able to be two people in order to run one business. So if you have that in you and you can organize the publishing end of self-publishing while still being a writer, then you're in good shape. If you struggle with that kind of thing, then you're going to have a very hard time in indie. Do you have the resources? Do you have the time and the money? Yeah, I said it, money. But let's face facts. Indie publishing is business, and I know of no business where you don't need some sort of investment. You need an editor, you need cover art, you need all these different things to put out a professional product, and none of them are free. Now, you can mitigate some of these costs. Find ways to trade skills. You may have certain skills. You may be a brilliant artist. You may be able to do your own interior designing. There's a lot of things you can do yourself, but you can't eliminate the costs altogether, especially with editing. Self-editing is just another draft. All you're doing is redrafting your book. You're not editing. Your high school English teacher is not an editor. But everything else, if it doesn't cost money, it's going to cost you time, because you have to learn how to do the interior design. You have to take time to create the cover art if you're artistic that way. So you have to have the time and money to invest, and that's not for everyone. Some people have jobs that demand a lot of their time, and then they have families at home that they don't want to ignore, or they just are on tight budgets and can't afford it. And for these people, this is where the arguments come in, and this is where I get the pushback. This is where I get called some nasty names. Don't call me any nasty names, okay? I actually got called something really nasty one time over this very subject, and it didn't matter that I know 50 successful indie authors who will tell you the exact same thing. That person did not want to be looked upon as anything other than being a professional. Well, if you want to do this professionally, that means you're doing this for a living. Now, you may write at a professional level, and you're a real writer. Just because you're not doing it for a living doesn't mean you're a scrub, doesn't mean you're a hack, doesn't mean any of those things. It just means you're not professional. It means you're not a professional. That means you're not doing it for a living, and that's all it means. So don't read things into what I'm saying that aren't there. But you do need that type of investment, the time and the money, and you need to ask yourself, do you have it? Now, I don't know the minimum dollar amount. I don't know the minimum time amount. But if you sit down and examine your life and examine what you need to do in order to give yourself the best possibility for success, then you can figure it out. Now, I will be doing some later videos that cover the details and specifics, so maybe you can better gauge how much you will need or how much you have to spend. And, you know, it's my hope that you are able to make the most informed, confident decision possible. So hopefully this has helped. Don't forget to click on the links at the bottom of the page, and especially my Patreon page, which supports this channel and will support my ride across the country visiting the mom and pop bookstores to visit you, or as many of you as I can meet, and explore the various cultures and towns of this country. I'm so much looking forward to it. Anyway, this is The Q with Brian D. Anderson. We'll see you next time.